I just love my customers' colorful spools of thread quilt. It turned out great using my combined methods of free motion and ProStitcher. I used about a dozen different threads for this. I used Omni V, that's a variegated thread, and I used a lot of different combinations. And then I used white to do free motion all around and free motion in the border. There was a lot of free motion here. Even the spools of thread was my matchstick free motion. However, I decided that I needed to do some ProStitcher recording because I might not want to free motion every single spool because that's a lot of matchstick quilting. So I want to explain to you today how to use ProStitcher Mark and Record for recording your stitch designs. If you can do a little free motion, but you don't want to have to do the same design over and over and over, this is going to be for you. Now, in the past, I have shown you how to use Mark and Record with the mark. So let's just kind of go over that. If you push record, then there are two things you can do. You can either mark, and that is your diamond-shaped part on your handlebar, or you can record. Now, if you want to mark, this is what I've shown in the past. Every time you move your machine and you click that button, then you're making a little mark, and ProStitcher connects the marks to make lines, and then you can go quilt that. Okay, so that's what I have talked about in the past with this feature. Today I want to talk about recording some stitches that you use. So it's just going to be using the other button. Okay, so let's see. We're going to find record, but instead of mark, we're going to hit the record button right down here. Okay, let's get our quilt ready for this. We want our needle placed, we want our bobbin pulled up before we ever push that record button. So I'm going to do this, do my little tack down stitches. Then I go to the tablet, and that's when I push record. Okay, otherwise it's going to get all of those other things that you're doing and kind of mess with your design. So that's where you want to wait until you're all ready to go, and then you push record. I've got my ruler base on. I've got this short little ruler and my ruler foot, my sure foot, and then I'm just going back and forth, back and forth. I'm using the ruler just to kind of help me push up. I'm not making sure that my stitch lines are even. I don't want them even. I want them sometimes to be real close together, sometimes to be a little more spread, just kind of going back and forth. On this particular spool, I will go ahead and tell you that I don't know, somehow I kind of went back and forth, a little jaggedy in one little part. And so I'll show you in a minute what that looks like recorded. So it picks up every movement that you're doing. And I decided to redo it again. So we're going to watch this action twice. But I'm going to go ahead, instead of playing this out to the end of that spool, and stop this one right here and show you what this looks like recorded. And you can see here, this is where that little glitch that I talked about, where I just kind of jerked the needle, I guess. And it didn't look bad at all on the quilt. It was perfectly fine to just leave it. But I didn't want it to show on every single spool if I was going to use a recording later to make all the other spools so that they're all exactly alike. So I decided that, okay, I'll just go ahead and save that one. But I'm going to record again on another spool and see if I can do a little better job on that one. But I do want to save this just in case. So I go up, save selected, and then I'm going to give this a name. And then it's going to become a design your stitches you just did become a design that you have wherever you choose to save it. So that's how you use Mark and Record. Let's look at doing this again. I select the home key to bring this into my center of my tablet screen, and I think that looks a lot better. So I'm going to save this one, and then let's see how you use it after that. Choose area, and all along this spool where you're going to want to place your stitch design, mark your area. I'll give the steps on how to do this here, but just know it's basically just how you would put any design in an area when you're using ProStitcher. I have been in free motion, so I had my gears off. I had to turn the gears on there, and I'm going to slide the design over. Now, I like to use skew quite a bit, but for some reason it just really didn't work for me on this. So I found that I could either I could manipulate the stitch design by just making it smaller or making it bigger, in either width or height, trying to get it just to fit in that area as best as I could, and that worked really great. But skew just wasn't really an option for me in this. And now that the design is placed, we're just going to start stitching this just like we normally do. We'll go to ProStitcher and Quilt and proceed. And that's all there is to it. Let's see how this stitches out. You've no doubt noticed that this is stitching out a little jerky. But what I found out was that when I was doing the stitching and the recording, I was on regulated precision, and then I stitched out on cruise. I went back and recorded again using cruise, and it was much smoother when it stitched out. So that kind of surprised me, but there's a tip for you. Now for a little of the free motion. In the border, I decided to use what I call fancy ribbon. It's ribbon candy with extra circles inside of them. So if you'll notice, I go up on the top, coming up on the top, I'm like, just like any ribbon candy, but then instead of coming back down, I circle, then I come down. And when I get down towards the bottom, I circle, and then I come up. So let's see, when I'm doing free motion on some of these designs, there are things that I think in my mind that help me to make that shape. And I was trying to think what I say when I'm doing that one, because like I know when I'm doing pebbles, I have to always in my mind say round, round. And it seems to help me try to keep that really circular and round shape. But in the fancy ribbon, I think I just remember, I kind of think about keeping that circle. It's not really a perfect circle, but I think about it being rounded at the top, rounded at the bottom. And then I always think move when I'm up at the top, because sometimes when people are doing ribbon candy, they are coming up, and as they're going around and going down, they don't go far enough to the right. When they're up at the top, they don't go far enough to the right. And they just kind of curve and start to come down, and then their shapes start getting distorted. So I always think that when I come up towards the top, that's the time I have to move, and I have to move towards the right and keep my motions moving across that quilt. And then when I go down towards the bottom, again, I'm thinking move, like move over, move towards the right. Hope that helps. On the ends of the spools, my customer did them all in brown, so I changed to a brown thread, and I tried to do a little bit like kind of a grain type look. There are a variety of ways to do that, but you know, if you just make some kind of squiggly lines, I think that a lot of times some of these little designs like this, that our eyes know what they want to see, and so if you can make it close to looking like what you want it to look like, then your eye's going to see what it is and interpret it correctly. They're fun to do. And of course, some fun swirls have to go into this quilt. Once again, just like on pebbles, when I'm doing swirls, I'm just thinking round, round. And sometimes it even helps to lay something round nearby, just to have that in my peripheral vision. So that while I'm going around on the swirls, that I see that, and it just kind of helps my hands to stay in that round motion. We don't want our swirls squared off or anything like that. The things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it round. I'm trying to have my stitches from one to the next one, outer one to the next outer one of that, trying to have those fairly even, but mine are not even at all. My stitches are not even. I'm trying, and they might be close, but they are not perfectly even, but that's just something I try for. But the biggest thing I'm trying for is the roundness. I'm even trying to go different directions so they're not all going the same way. But I cannot do a left and a right, a left and a right, a left and a right. For some reason, I just can't. So I'll do a right and I'll do another right. I'll do a left and I'll do another left. Just as long as they're round is the main thing. If you can't get each one in the direction you want, that's okay. You just need to be able to step a little ways away from that quilt, look at that, and just see pretty round shapes. That's what swirls are all about. This is Julie Pettyjohn in Missouri, and I want to thank you so very much for watching my channel. Please like and subscribe.